A while ago, I did videos calling out Tyson Fury for shamelessly ducking Alexander Usyk, and it's only fair that I do the same now for Ginger Nuts Canelo Alvarez, because it seems to be a return to form for him, because he has shamelessly ducked David Benavidez, his mandatory challenger and main contemporary rival, instead fighting Jaime Munguia. And we all knew that I don't fight other Mexicans nonsense that he was coming out with was just that, is nonsense. Because he'd never had a problem fighting other Mexicans previously, and he doesn't have a problem doing it now. So we can discard that, we can put that to one side, because we always knew it was BS. But if we look at the mainstream boxing headlines, it seems to be that the issue for Canelo is weight, particularly the weight of David Benavidez, because there have been talks of rehydration clauses, which seemingly David Benavidez's team accept. It seems that Canelo's been pointing the finger at David Benavidez, inferring that he's a weight bully, and I think the most recent thing is him asking for $150 to $200 million to fight him. And now I don't think that Canelo Alvarez is scared of David Benavidez, but I'm almost certain, I know for a fact, that Canelo Alvarez hates losing. And I think, you don't get to where Canelo Alvarez is without being a competitor, because he is a competitor through and through. But sometimes we see with certain fighters, their competitive spirit and their ego spills over to the point where they'll do anything to preserve it. And they go from being challenge seekers to almost being averse to challenging themselves. And I think that's what we're seeing here with Canelo Alvarez, because, yeah, you can make a case that Jaime Munguia is a good fight for Canelo. I think it's a reasonable fight. However, we can't ignore the context of him ducking David Benavidez to make this fight happen. And I think it's just because he understands that David Benavidez poses a real threat. Me personally, I'd probably pick Benavidez. I'll be honest. But we're probably not going to find out. I hope one day we do. But for the meantime, we're just going to have to rely on our imaginations. But yeah, it's disappointing, and it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth, and I'm sure you guys agree, because Canelo Alvarez, as I say, he was really on a good run of form. He set the bar quite high. He lost to Bivol, but I don't hold that against him. He fought a top light heavyweight who's at the peak of his powers and came up short. Okay, happens. When you challenge yourself at the top level, you're going to lose. You're going to have draws. You're going to have close wins. It's just part of the game. But this act of preservation for Canelo really it's not acceptable. It's not. Because not only is he ducking someone who he should be fighting, that is, you can't dispute that. But it's the fact that he's trying to pull the wool over boxing fans' eyes as well. He's trying to say all this nonsense. I don't fight other Mexicans, but then he goes and fights another Mexican. He's a weight bully. But then Canelo Alvarez had no problem separating Amir Khan from his senses, knocking him into outer space back in 2016 when he was fighting at 155 pounds. The Canelo weight, the mythical land where you can fight for a middleweight title, but in between light middleweight and middleweight, you don't have to fight fully fledged middleweights. It's BS. And it's a shame because Canelo, you could say he redeemed himself after ducking Gennady Golovkin, because then he really was taking on all comers. But now it's a return to form. And, there's that saying where you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Is that what we're seeing with Canelo? Because in many people's eyes, he represents boxing. I'm not saying I necessarily agree with that, but he's definitely one of the most recognizable profiles. He's certainly the money man in boxing, but is his reign going on long enough now that he's becoming the villain? He's becoming the boxing heel. The guy, people always hate on Canelo. That's fair enough. It was always frustrating following his career with the ducking, with the favourable treatment. But, you know, credit where it's due. Canelo, you seem dedicated to his craft, and he legitimately became a very difficult fighter to beat. You know, favourable judging aside and that kind of thing, Canelo Alvarez, you can't deny the improvements he's made and the development, the trajectory of it over recent years. But, hey man, if it looks like a duck and it sounds like a duck, it's probably a duck. And that's exactly what this is here. And it's frustrating. But there's one thing that I personally find more frustrating. And it's when you get these boxing fans. And I say fans with inverted commas because they're really fanboys. And they say stuff like, but he's earned the right to do what he wants. Canelo doesn't have to follow the rules because, you know, he's a legend. Look at his resume. Look who he's fought previously. Look what he's done in his career. He's earned the right to fight who he wants now. To anybody who says that, fuck you. Because you are not a boxing fan. You're a fanboy. You're an enabler. It's because of people like you who say shit like that boxing basically gets made a mockery of. And it's stuff like this enabling that I just can't tolerate. How much of a bitch, of a nut hugger do you have to be to say stuff like that? Hatman put it best. If you can't handle the heat, get out the kitchen. If Canelo Alvarez wants to go and fight Jaime Munguia, he can do it. But give up your belts. Free up the division. Don't hold it up. It's as simple as that. As a champion, you enjoy certain privileges. And yeah, you had to earn your way there to get to the title. But when you become a champion, you have certain privileges, but you still have certain responsibilities. So no fighter ever earns the right to be above the rules. No. And don't get me wrong, it's down to the sanctioning bodies to enforce the rules as well. Although Canelo Alvarez in the WBC, I'm not going to hold my breath regarding that. But, and I know this is a dwindling fraternity of fans, quote unquote, who talk nonsense like this. But in case you're one of these people, sorry buddy, but this channel's not the place for you. And yeah, you don't belong in boxing. Let's just say that. Anyway, that's my little rant over. Let me know what you think of Canelo's ducking of David Benavidez. And yeah, leave your thoughts down below. I'll get back to you. But for now, thanks for listening, and I'll catch you in the next video.